A lot of you have been asking for the predictions for the 2025 season, and here it is. Let me break it down for you. What are the predictions for 2025? We've seen the drivers, we've seen the F1 event yesterday, and we can see how up and down it was. It depends on the way you see it, but the way I saw it is that it's a shambolic event. Now, who is going to win the championship? We can only give you an idea of who could win and which team could also win the Constructors' Championship. We can't tell you directly who will, because it's a 24 race season and a very long season that laps till December. How is the race going to be? I can't tell you. But one thing I can tell you is that stay tuned and listen to all the analyses from next week, when these cars will be getting on track in Bahrain for a lot of shakedown for the next 3 days in Bahrain. Up until that time, we'll be able to tell you little things that you need to know about 2025. Now, let's start with a possible team that could produce a winner for 2025. That team is Red Bull. Now, Red Bull are detailed a lot of details of their car. We've not really seen any details, especially on the F1 75 stage in which they brought their car. There are lots of shadows covering, as in guys around it. We could not see what the car really looks like. But we know that, as they have promised last season, that they are going to build a very good car this season. That's why they could not really put more energy into last year's car. They were only able to push Max Verstappen to win the championship. Aside from that, they settled for 3rd place in the Constructors' Championship. Now, how can they win? They need to redesign and also give Max Verstappen a car that he can use to win the championship. Liam Lawson is now fully integrated into the senior team. We don't have any news about his shakedowns, his tests, because the main focus had been Lewis Hamilton. So how will he perform in the season? We can see how he performed last season in the Red Bull sister team, that's VCAB. He challenged Sergio Perez in so many races, and he also put his own teammate Yuki Tsunoda last season under a lot of pressure, but Yuki Tsunoda triumphed because he had a lot of experience in the team. For me, I thought Yuki Tsunoda was best to be promoted, but I knew he would not be promoted. But let's watch out for the Red Bull duo this season, what they would be able to do. But other teams are coming up. They have really rejuvenated. They've really gotten some little time here and there to compete for the championship in 2025. That's for Red Bull. Let's quickly move to the Mercedes. The new Mercedes is been out. We saw that on the F1 75 stage, but Mercedes too are hiding a lot of things like Red Bull. We could hardly say this is what the Mercedes looks like. Mercedes have made a lot of changes, especially to their front wings, and also the sitting position of the driver. Changes have been made to it. Also, the side pod looks like what they had last year, but the undercut on the Coke engine cover is a little bit different from what I can see from the TV. But it's a new Mercedes we are going to see in 2025. Toto Wolff will try and prove Lewis Hamilton right or wrong, either with the new car they've brought, if it really suits the drivers and if it is what Lewis Hamilton had been saying. We would know that when the season kickstarts in Bahrain. Also to George Russell, I don't see him as a championship contender. Meanwhile, his teammate Kimi, a new kid in the block, I think Kimi will give it a fight, but will he be able to fight against his teammate George Russell like he did when he was in F2, to give his teammate Oliver Bearman, who had that experience in F2, a fight for his championship? But he's coming into a new team, a senior team, F1 season for him in the new year. I think he will give it a fight, but the two Mercedes guys are not looking like guys that are ready for championship. So Mercedes, I can tell you, they are discounted from it. But for them to bring a good car, I think Mercedes will bring a good car this season. But will the car be enough, or will the car be worth a car that is ready for championship? There are a lot of question marks around it because of the kind of drivers they have. So let's see what Mercedes would bring. But certainly, like I said, they are not ready for championship. Moving straight to McLaren. The new project McLaren brought is a very good project. And what did McLaren do? It's a very simple thing. McLaren didn't force. They didn't do much. They only improved last year car, which is the MCL 38. They improved it with the MCL 39. It has a larger horizontal airbox. If you look at the airbox on top, it has changed. They've also brought something that looks like what Mercedes did last year, but it is a more aggressive one, different from the way Mercedes were moving the anti-dive from the suspension up and down. They brought a new anti-dive, which looks different. Their side pod, the inlet looks different from the last year car. The front wings also look different. The rear wings wings, I think looks different from what I was seeing last year. The undercut on the coke body looks different. The team principal, Andre Stella, has come out to say they don't really need to build a new car, but they only need to make the car more faster. Now, from their shakedown earlier this week, they said they've gotten about 5/10 to 7/10 a car that was faster than the MCL 38. Will the MCL 39 really be that car that will be faster than the Red Bull or as the Ferrari until we get on track? But other teams have gotten some juice up to come into the new season with. The MCL 39 is faster until we get into the new season. Lando Norris has said that the way he's looking at Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari, it looks like somebody that's coming to win a championship. And I think I love that in the way he is already saying it, because last year and 2 years ago, Lando Norris was saying a lot of things that were negative about Lewis Hamilton, about championship. But when they really got into a championship fight, he really felt what championship fight looks like. And I think he doffed his cap for Lewis Hamilton towards the end of the season. And into a new season, looking at Lewis Hamilton, a reinvigorated and rejuvenated Lewis Hamilton, he knew that the only thing he can do is not just to hype him up, but to say something that might look like the truth, because Chris Horner and Red Bull team are already saying the same thing, that Lewis Hamilton they are looking at in Ferrari is looking way better than the Lewis Hamilton they looked at in Mercedes in the last 2 seasons. Will this be a new Lewis Hamilton? When I get to Ferrari, I'll be able to tell you that. Oscar Piastri, after a very good season last year, will be looking up to a better season this year to challenge his teammate Lando Norris and also see how that team can possibly win a championship, not just the Drivers' Championship, also the Constructors' Championship this year. Now, can they do it? Yes, they have the capacity to do it, but it's still a team that has a lot to learn. They have a lot of learnings in which they did last year. This year is a new year for them. How will they turn it around? How will they make sure that this year is totally different from last year? Until we get to the first race of the season and see how they perform and what upgrades they are bringing, we'll be able to tell you that. On the fast lane, we move to Ferrari. The championship contending Ferrari project 677 is finally out and we can see the car. The first thing we could notice is Ferrari has moved from the push rod to a pull rod in 2025. Now, they switch to a pull rod with a different wishbone attachment, which certainly will be. And the side pod looks larger with a very large undercut, but it looks much more way similar to what they had last year when they went the Mercedes way. It has a very complex design. They said earlier in the season, that is Ferrari, that they are going to change 99% of the car. It's only 1% that will be left with. And if you look at the car thoroughly, you see that the car is a totally new car. They have a shrunk engine cover. The coke engine cover has been shrinked up, so it looks smaller. A shark fin almost removed, and a new central outlet. A completely new rear wings with different V-shape and tips. Now, why do they bring the pull rod? It brings the center of gravity of the car to become lower and also to make the car a little bit lighter. And when the car turns, it makes the car much more balanced. Also, it makes the car lighter, and it's very easy for mechanics to quickly work on the car with a pull rod. Now, with their team principal, Fred Vasseur, really not trying to give so much out, it is imperative that Ferrari are really hiding a lot of things, not on the car, but hiding a lot of things until the season begins. They are trying to just be like, no, we don't want to show you our hand. When they had the shakedown earlier today, they told us the car is almost a second faster in Fiora than the SF25, which is relatively not going to give us how fast the car will be until we get on track. We know the car will be faster because it's a new project and it has been headed by Loic Serra, one of the Mercedes aerodynamics guys that left Mercedes and moved to Ferrari. So Lewis Hamilton really gave his whole lot about his hard work, and now he's trying to make sure he gets prepared for the season. But Lewis Hamilton will be a championship contender because he's been hyped, and also a lot of people are expecting him to do well in Ferrari. Teammate Charles Leclerc will be a good championship contender because last season and 2 seasons ago they've proven themselves. Even when Lewis Hamilton was having a bad car, he was helping the team, and also Charles Leclerc had really given his all in the way he drives, and it looks like a championship contender. So it looks like those 3 guys will really come out. That is Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and Charles Leclerc, and give their all in the 2025 season. But for Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, we don't know who will be the number 1 driver or number 2 driver, but I think Ferrari will not have a number 1 number 2 driver. They will only look at who they will give more advantage when the season progresses, which I think is the best solution for them into the season. But who will be in number 1, who will be the number 2 driver, or who will win, or who will have more points amongst these 2 drivers until we get to Bahrain and to the first race in Australia, we'll be able to tell you much and much about this. Aston Martin next. Aston Martin brought their car. They didn't really show their hand, but that car really looks like a last year car. And I think Aston Martin should just be preparing more for the 2026. Everything they did yesterday during the F1 75 was like a movie. They are not looking at like a team that have come to contend. They've only looked like a team that are ready to look at what others have come to do, take a learning from 2025 and go into 2026. That's what I think they look like. They are not a championship team yet, especially with Lance Stroll and the pairing with Fernando Alonso. They don't look like a championship pairing yet. I think so. That is all I can say on Aston Martin. Alpine, great show yesterday. The car looks very, very good, but until we get to track, we'll be able to know if the Alpine car is going to really compete. They are still using their Renault engine. They are switching to Mercedes engine next year. How will they fare? We can't say it, but Pierre Gasly is not trying to give too much, but I think Pierre Gasly will do well this year in Alpine. Alpine had learned a lot of lessons since 2022, and I think coming 2025, they should be able to bring a car that would be challenging for 5th in the Constructors' Championship, and that is what I think they will do. But with Jack Doohan and Franco Colapinto, we don't know who would really lose his place and who will really get his place. But I think, and I can tell you, Pierre Gasly will give his all. But will he stay in Alpine in 2026? I can't say yet. But is he a championship contender with that car? I don't think so. So Alpine are not a championship contender. Let's move to VCAB. Yuki Tsunoda and Isaac Hadjar in the White Bull, like I call it, because they keep changing their name. Now they are Racing Bulls. Last year they are VCAB. Upper year they are Alpha Tauri. So we don't know what they will come up with in 2026. The car looks just like a 2024 Red Bull. They had a lot of copying on 2024 Red Bull. The rear of the Red Bull, the side pods, and a lot of things they copied from the Red Bull. And I think if other teams are to raise eyebrows and say, hey, this is the same thing that happened in 2020 when the pink Mercedes copied the black Mercedes. But I don't think that will happen. The White Bulls should be able to do a good job this season with Isaac Hadjar and Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda will keep cementing his legacy so as to prepare himself for 2026, because I think he might not be racing in Red Bull or Racing Bull next season, with Honda already moving out and the Red Bull already having the Red Bull powertrain in collaboration with Ford. Honda is moving to Aston Martin. It might be a different thing for Yuki Tsunoda. But for Isaac Hadjar, the Red Bull team keeps producing driver, and I think they'll bring a new driver in 2026. Up until then, this team is not yet a championship contending team. Will they be able to contend with Alpine, Aston Martin in the midfield? I can't really say, but I think they will be in the mix all through next season, trying to gain points here and there. To us, Esteban Ocon, Oliver Bierman. To me, I've said that is a bad pairing. But let's see what they do. The Haas are looking very formidable. They have a very beautiful car and a possible midfield competing car. But let's see what Haas will bring through the season. They are not yet a championship contending car. Straight to move to Sauber. Like I said in the video, Sauber had the best and the most beautiful car that I saw in F1 75. But with their new team principal and the 2 new guys, Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto, I think Sauber is only preparing for 2026. 2025 is not a year for them to really rush out and say, hey, they have a championship winning car, or they're coming with a car that will contend with the likes of Mercedes, the likes of Red Bull and Ferrari. But Sauber will learn through it. I still think they need to change their team principal, because that's the person of Mattia Binotto. His learning in Ferrari really shows that he has a long way to go. He was unable to change so many things. Maybe he has learned, maybe not. But let's see what he does in this first season in Sauber. And to the last team I'll talk about, Williams. Beautiful livery, beautiful combination, Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. I don't think they will be having a number 1 and number 2 driver, just like Ferrari here also. And they have a lot of updates on the car. The car looks like a car that should challenge Aston Martin and Alpine for the 5th position. The 2 drivers they are having are good drivers. They are drivers of the championship pedigree. But how will they use this learning and these drivers to produce good results in 2025? The first race of the season will tell us a lot of things. Good liveries don't produce good races. Good drivers and good cars produces good races. The prediction still remains the championship contending teams looks like the Red Bull, Ferrari, and the McLaren. The championship contending drivers still looks like Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, possibly Lando Norris. Those are my predictions. I can't tell you who will win. Up until we get into the next season, and when we get to Bahrain next week, you have more videos to watch. I love you guys. Please subscribe, like, share. Bye.